Hi there, and welcome to season 1, episode 2 of Cayman's in Your Corner, Mastering Your A Game. What the heck is that? Well, we are going to deep dive every week into all of the countless things that nobody can do for you but you. This week, we are going to dive into vocab rehab. We are going to overhaul and upgrade what you say and how you say it. So, I am attorney and coach Kimberly Mansfield, and I'm going to tell you right up front, I am a neuroscience geek. Neuroscience, quantum biology, epigenetics, human dynamics. I'm a neuroscience geek, so everything we work with, especially when it comes to these things that only you can do for you, all these things that are an inside job, we're talking about neuroscience, neurophysiology. So it has to do with, and this will be my frame, I'll go back to it over and over, right? Circuitry, chemistry, and linguistics. Circuitry is electricity coursing around. You don't need to become a neuroscience geek. I'll try and simmer it down. But circuitry is the electrical currents. It is why pacemakers and defibrillators work, and we should avoid lightning. Okay. Chemistry are the things coursing around in your blood and hopping between synapses in your brain. So the neurochemistry, the things that it's information that's being trafficked all over your body. Okay. And linguistics, well, that's just a fancy word for language. So, but those three things are what all of us have in common. And they're what everyone we deal with has in common. And everyone knows when we say we get a vibe from someone, that's what we're talking about. There's a volley between humans, okay? Circuitry, chemistry, linguistics, right? There's a volley, though, a vibe. Sometimes it's completely unintended on one side or the other, but our system has a sense, might have a reaction. Here's what not only were we not taught, we weren't even told that we don't have to resort to the default reaction in that. That's a really animalistic, right? We are all animals at the end of the day. Those are the animal things going back and forth. But we humans have this like nifty little prefrontal cortex up here, higher thinking, and we can put it to use. I don't know. I was never told that. I was never kind of given that permission to go, wait, what do you mean? I don't have to react in kind. Touche, right? Tit for tat. And it's like, no, actually. And there's tremendous, tremendous impact and influence if we can take ourselves to task. And it takes time. Okay. This is going to be a lifelong path. I've been working on it for a long time. I have to work on it all of the time because those things run deep, right? Those redundancies and the ruminations we've had, the grooves, the ruts, we can reprogram them. Words and thoughts and everything, we can reprogram, we can rewire our brain. We know it. Neuroimaging, we can see it live time happening in neuroimaging, and we can sense it. It's like anything that you practice. You can sense it. Some days it's frustrating. You feel like you went a couple steps backwards, right? Let's say we're out practicing, we're taking batting practice. It's baseball season. I like baseball. Taking batting practice. And, some days it does feel like moving backwards, and other days clocking it straight on. If you've ever done anything you've had to practice at, who hasn't? When we get a job, we have to practice at something new, or we have to practice in a new situation, a new layout of things. We never don't have opportunities to practice. And the cool thing about all the things we're going to talk about are that they are not just exclusive to the divorce custody realm. You can practice this type of processing and speaking everywhere. These are transferable skills. So you never not have opportunity to practice. And the more you practice it, the more you're conscious of it. First, feels mechanical. It feels like this isn't doing anything. This maybe, but over time, like anything else, it is the aggregation of marginal gains. So we're going to talk about rehabbing your vocabulary because words and thoughts are things. They affect our brain. They affect how we interact. They certainly affect the reception on the outside. And not only from the word part, from all that circuitry and chemistry that's radiating outwards. And in that regard, they affect not only kind of our roles in the case and our roles everywhere, but our roles parenting. And anybody in here with a kid in the middle, it's the axis of the earth, right? I think the biggest wake up call for my clients is my favorite research study, the sweat study. And it really gets their attention and it really helps them reframe what they're taking themselves to task on in these realms, the inside job, because it's hard. It's work. It's very gratifying work. There's much to be gained. I mean, your utmost lies in the inside job. And if we aren't attending that, we'll never be bringing our utmost to the table. We'll never be playing our A game, maybe B plus. But if we're not taking ourselves to task, our system, we just won't. We'll be leaving opportunity hanging out there. But where the kids are, so back to the sweat study. So they did a sweat study. So they had people in super sweatful situations. Think exams, job interviews, things like that. Stress, sweat. And they took their sweatshirts, shirts, whatever. And then they took sweatshirts, shirts, whatever, from people who were in good stress, like who were doing something, a happy activity, an activity in flow. I forgot what the specifics are, but, think summer birthday party, kid's birthday party outside. It's fun. Something like that. They took all these sweatshirts, clothes. And then they got all these other people, completely separate group, neutral people. And I think you get where I'm going here. So they had the people, different groups of people, smell the sweat, shirts, clothes, whatever, from the two groups. And they monitored their biomarkers. So not just heart rate and blood pressure, but like what neurochemicals, what hormones are coursing through their blood while they're sniffing it. What are the changes? What effect is it having on their system, on their circuitry and chemistry? They're monitoring, doing brain imaging because they know you can watch. Fascinating to us geeks. You can watch the areas of the brain that correspond to different emotions and that light up. So they're doing all this contemporaneously with sniffing these sweatshirts, both groups. People sniffing the stress sweat, biomarkers jacked up. Stress hormones jacked up. Lighting up places in the brain like fear, anger, envy, jacked up. Exactly the exact opposite with I'll call it happy sweat. The people who were, doing positive things or in a positive frame of mind. And it really is a frame of reference. It's not necessarily the activities. It's how our system is at the time that we're doing things. So that was in pleasant activities. And they saw the good areas, happy areas of the brain light up. We see the biomarkers, the stress hormones and stuff relax. Heart rate and blood pressure modulate. So this isn't entirely about, I would say it's secondarily about the external effects of consciously rehabbing our vocabulary and the inside job that it takes to do that. So it is secondarily about those things because we really can influence situations more than we give ourselves credit for, more than people we've ever been taught or told or given permission to be. This just hasn't been brought up, right? We're just uninformed. And we haven't tried it out for long enough, maybe. But it's also primarily affecting our health and well-being. And that includes health span and lifespan and our parenting abilities, because we don't want to bleed on the kids. But even when you're not talking about the other parent in the same room or trafficking messages back and forth, like through the kids or anything, which none of which you should do, but even when you're not doing that, if you have an unaddressed animus that you're not at least working at processing in better ways, that is literally oozing out our pores. And we're not doing it on purpose. And we can be smiling and white knuckling in it, and it's still oozing out our pores. So it is important. And you can get an inroads to this little, my trifecta of circuitry, chemistry, and linguistics. Any of those are entry points. But we're going to use linguistics because changing the words can change your own chemistry. And once you kind of get a feel for this, you start framing things up differently. So you don't have to be a neuroscience geek. You will feel this. We're going to feel our way through some alternate language, meaning I've got a no list, and it's not exclusive there. We could add to it all day long, right? And then I've got alternatives. And you can feel in your body as we go through this, okay? How things land. That's why you can take this stuff anywhere. I mean, I have clients who are just as excited that they take the same the tools they took to court, and it worked really great. And the judge was really receptive. And even opposing party was like unprecedentedly reasonable. They took him to work and got the same results. So this isn't just, I know this is an ask at a time when you're already mired in some of life's hardest stuff. But it's an ask with a huge ROI. I would also argue that with these word things, that it may be some of the most instant work you can do. I mean, instant shifts. I've seen it happen. So this week at Vocab Rehab, we are going to do some. I'm going to go down a list. I have this like long list of no words and then alternatives. And then next week, we are going to be work on putting them together and communicating powerfully. So some actual examples where it's not just the words hanging out there alone, but you'll get the gist if you tune into the feel of things today. All right. So it takes a bit of an open mind, I think. I think some of these things can be new and be head scratching. I also think that oftentimes, because we're embroiled in these things, because they're so touchy, and they're so touchy because they're so important. But I think it takes a hefty effort to park our ego at the door. Because I don't think anybody, pardon me, something's in my eye. I don't think anybody really, we don't generally want to throw fuel on the fire, right? We don't, I mean, sometimes we just feel like we want to get a good in there. Okay, but it benefits no one, namely ourselves, for all the reasons I just listed. It's eroding our health, it's spilling on the kids. It also doesn't move our case forward. We're accomplishing nothing. We're lowering our chances of getting to agreement or the impressions we're making on important people like mediators and judges and parenting coordinators and the like, maybe our own attorney if we have one. So take a breath, settle in with me a little bit, and just kind of take these, with a nod, and let that feeling of the differences kind of sink in. See how it feels. And then next week we'll put them to work in some examples, complete examples of exchanges and writing. All right. All right. Buckle up. Here we go. So the first things first, the globalizations got to go. You got to just strike them. The words that I'm going to ask us to strike are ones that steer our chemistry in the wrong direction. And if they're steering our chemistry and circuitry in the wrong direction, that is the effect we're going to have on others. Okay. So it starts with affecting us detrimentally. And then what we give out, those ripples we give out, I don't care if people deserve them or not. It does not behoove your ultimate aims to parlay, to poke the bear, right? To stir the pot. It doesn't. Now it's time to do something different. Okay. You can't, if you're aiming for your A game, you can't get there with what got you here. Who is it? I don't know, maybe it was just my coach, or I think he was quoting one. Always said, what got you here won't get you there. If you want different, if you want better, or the possibility or an increased potential of better, more favorable things, you can't stay the same. So globalizations are everything, always, never, nothing. And come on, it's kind of impossible that those are ever really true, right? It is rare that we can ever say, make globalizations that actually hold water. Okay. So if you were to frame that up and you were trying to make a point about something that happens or doesn't happen, let's say in court or in a writing that you're exchanging, then we could frame things up as there is no time or instance when X has or has not happened. And then you can be prepared with specifics. You don't necessarily have to start going through your list, but then you have the bullet points, a very specific detailed list. Similarly, generalizations. Okay. So no one, everyone, all. You got to specify, or you can use numerous, many, few, some, rarely, things like that, and be ready to specify if needed. When we use generalizations, we lose credibility because rarely is that possible. It also is less likely to elicit smashback, right? Here's a biggie, and I strike this from my clients' vocabulary straight off the bat because I'm going to ask you to really, really tune into this one. We talk about, or you hear, my clients still talk on this way, well, but you hear this all the time. Custody battle. It's a brawl, fight, right? It's a war. Tell me the difference it feels in your body between we say all those words and saying, I'm in a family transition. Come on. We gear up differently, right? I mean, for war and battle and all those things, like we get the artillery and the infantry and the grenades, and we gear up differently. For family transitions, we have a family, they're in transition. I mean, a whole other list of things come to mind. Change those words, strike them from your language. I know you'll hear them all the time. You'll see them all the time. You see them online. I see them a lot where people are trying to hook into a lot of advertising, I guess, and stuff you see where people are trying to hook into the fear and anger and get clients and customers and rah, rah. Well, it works. I mean, as a business model, those are the two things that like media does as a business model. Very profitable. Fear and anger mongering. It does not behoove you. Feel it. Your system feels different. That means you're oozing different things onto the kiddos. That means you're oozing different things out into your transactions, into your communications, in front of the judge. Feel how they land in your body, and you know how they land out there. Even position, issues, stance, offer when we'll give our side. How about preferences? Preferences and proposals. My preference is I am proposing this. Issues and positions sound like we've got a line in the sand, right? We've staked our claim, we're not moving. I'm starting at point A, you're starting at point Z. We're like 26 miles apart. Preferences. We have contrasting preferences. I'm proposing. It lands different. Here's a big super duper beef with me. I got to tell you, and it's like it's savvy right now. You hear it all the time. I see it on like in films and oh my goodness, strike. Reach down your own throat and pull this stuff out. To be honest, if I'm being honest, honestly, truth told, there's only one question in the judge's mind. What are you being the rest of the time? I get it. It's a manner of speaking, but it's not. Words are things. Do not preface statements this way ever. Not in court, not anywhere. Okay? It dilutes credibility. All right, I'm going to stop beating that dead horse and move on. Calling things a problem, it's right up there with issues and positions and stuff, but you can call it, again, we're back to preferences or the situation, the dynamic. Dynamic's a good one because kind of that. Another one we use, and this came up, I'm in a state that made this law, this term, that parenting time is parenting time. It is not visitation. We do not use the word visitation. Parents don't visit their children. They have parenting time with their children. Children don't visit their parents, right? It lands differently. So I got to tell you, I don't care what your state calls it. Plenty of states still call it visitation. I don't care what even your attorney or whoever calls it. Change this vocabulary in your vocabulary because it feels different. And that goes both ways. Kiddos get parenting time with you. Kiddos get parenting time with the other parent. And I arranged it that way specifically because here's the thing, parenting time belongs to the child, not the parent. The child. The child gets parenting time. So there's one right there. Instead of my parenting time with Johnny, it's Johnny's parenting time with me is, sounds different, feels different, right? These little things have profound impact. Gonna strike the word fair, the F word, to all courts. I hate that word. There is no fair. I deserve, they deserve, I deserve, they don't deserve, whatever, fair. I want it fair. And courts, judges. I'm not here to be fair. There is no fair, no statutes based on fair. It isn't. If you're talking about property and stuff and a divorce, it's equitable. If you're talking about parenting time and custody stuff, we're talking about best interest of the child. So strike the fair. And it changes in our brains because when we say it needed fair, I mean, suddenly we feel a little petulant, like we're not getting, anything. It's like, well, we may be getting, getting some things and not others. Strike it. Blaming, shaming, and finger pointing. First of all, as terminology goes, you just want to bring up contrasting facts, which are as you've observed and experienced them. You don't want to be, again, blame, shame, finger pointing. Two, it just appears to judges or whoever else around, like your eyes are on the wrong prize. It also dilutes your message. Sometimes I'm listening to clients and I'm trying to kind of weasel in without stomping on them to try and slow the roll and go, wait. I'm hearing all about the blaming, shaming, and finger pointing, but I trying to get to your preferences. I don't know. I don't know your part. I don't know the issue if all I'm hearing about is how awful the other party is. It also, it's also one of those things that can't be 100% true. That one person is 100% bad, wrong, awful, and one person's 100% super duper awesome, perfect. It's just impossible. We're humans. So it erodes credibility as well. So blaming, shaming, finger pointing, it's a waste of energy and time. And clients are doing that to me. I try and remind them like cha-ching, cha-ching, because I know that's not where they want to be spending their money on. But it's also harming circuitry, chemistry, the stuff oozing out their pores. It's harming their health and well-being, and it's spreading outwards. And it will not help them be their best in any interaction or appearances or that. Don't call lies, lying, false, liar, dishonest, untruthful. When somebody says something, the counter could be actually, and then you offer contrasting equation of the facts as you know and observe them. Or it was my experience that, and then you offer the contrasting facts and as you observe and experience them. Don't go calling people out. You just offer up your set of what you believe to be the facts. Insane, crazy, certifiable, out of control, unhinged. Oh my gosh. That goes right with finger pointing, blaming, shaming, and all that. But really, what you need to do is you need to succinctly and cogently tee up the facts. Again, the observations and experiences, you know them, so that the court or whomever draws that conclusion. I mean, they're not going to say in their head, they may be saying crazy, certifiable, blah, blah, whatever, but they're not. They're just putting it in perspective, right? Give them the equation that would be, or something like that would be after the equal sign, okay? Same with adultery, cheated, slept around, and all the, I mean, you can, if it's relevant, and it rarely is, that they dated, seeing someone and that. But again, feel how differently those land. Using that language flatters you. The things you say, how you say them, honestly, think about it. You have interactions all the time, right? Think about it. They say more about the individual oftentimes than they say about the subject of the comment. So do things that are good for you and are actually leveling up your communication, your effectiveness. Strike anything that suggests ownership of the child. Me, mine, my child. I don't want my son going there. I don't want, my child's not. I'm uncomfortable with my child. That's when I hear judges pull out of people's throats on the regular. And that is a very, very easy way to do it. You could call the child by their name, obviously, but even better, our child, our son, our daughter. That is what judges want to hear. And that is the way you really need to be thinking, because there's going to be some co-parenting, whether it's parallel or co-parenting or good, bad, or otherwise. There's going to be some going on for a while, a long time, probably. Allow, that's one that falls in there too. I give him time with his dad, this. I give parenting time, this. I allow. Ooh, that sounds like property. Again, we're back to Johnny or Susie has parenting time with their mom Tuesday through Saturday. or maybe has parenting time with their mom for 2 hours on Friday afternoons with supervision. It's no different. You aren't giving, allowing, or anything. The right is the child's right to parenting time. Here's a big, big biggie. This is one where you got to check your ego at the door. And I'm going to tell you, for any of you, this might sound familiar. For any of you Ted Lasso fans out there, I'm an addict. Dr. Sharon said, truth will set you free. But first, they'll piss you off. Which kind of translates to, the pissed off part is like, truth can hurt, right? And so I'm now going to give one that is, I know people like, oh, I'm not giving that up. It's like, well, it is one of the most important ones that you can give up for the sake of your child and your health and well-being and the results on the other side. Kids first and foremost. Here they are. Baby mama, egg donor, biomom, incubator, gestator. All of those in a loving, supportive, goofy, relationship, that's one thing. But every one of us knows that in this scenario, this context, those are pejorative, devoid of respect. People don't have to be respectable for us to respect them, because that says something about us. So I got to tell you, I know I see it all the time, and I know it's shorthand. BM, BD, it's BS. Lose it. I know they come off, they're flip, they're funny. There's a lot of camaraderie in it. Some of the most damaging stuff you can put out there. So I hope you'll take yourself to task. And what it is instead, obviously you can use their name. Better yet, you can go one step further to sweeten the improvement on your system, what you're oozing out, the effects, especially in court. Johnny's mom, Susie's dad. That's it. It's either their name or Johnny's mom or Susie's dad, or that's it. This is so huge. My clients are blown away because my clients change the name in the phone, and I have seen every awful name that you could put in your phone for the ex, and don't even call them ex, call them these things. They will always be the child's other parent. Change the name so that when it comes up or when they're texting, whatever, it is Susie's mom. That's what it says. Because their first thought is Susie or Johnny's dad. Their first thought is Johnny. And my clients go one step further and they put a picture of the kiddo on the parent's avatar. So their first thought, it goes through a different filter. It's a different lens. It cues different circuitry and chemistry. And I would just challenge you to try it. These are easy, free things that you can do that have impacts that you might not guess, that might be subtle, but they're profound. Clinical terms, leave those puppies out. Bipolar, narcissist, ooh, that's fashionable. I mean, can anybody on here list me the factors of narcissism on the DSM-6 right now? Aren't we on 6? I think so. Most of us aren't clinicians. Leave that to them. That includes depressed, suicidal, pathological, addict, alcoholic, those things. These are clinical terms. They have clinical diagnoses. Your job is to use specifics to substantiate the court drawing the conclusion you want them to draw. You're going to serve them up facts. So you're going to have A plus B plus C. That's what you give up. So the court says equal D. But you're not going to tell the clinical terms. You're going to give the substantiation for them and let the court draw the conclusions because that is the court's purview. That is the court's job. So you're putting responsibilities where they lie. Your responsibility is to substantiate, to bring that equation. You serve up the equation, they serve up the solution, the conclusion. Okay. Same as with legal terms, throwing around perjury, contempt, crime, unconstitutional, even sometimes there's a lot of very learned people who, have gone to town and a lot of things, have done your homework, and some of those terms might apply, but they might not necessarily get you traction. Most people think perjury is just lying on the stand. Well, you'd have to check your statutes in your state to see exactly how perjury, what has to be, proved for perjury. And I'm not saying people don't lie on the stand. I'm just saying perjury as a crime rarely enters in, or people are like, that's against the law. And it's like, well, sorta. Those aren't your conclusions to make. You can certainly tee up the equation again so that that conclusion is drawn by who, if you're in a proceeding, obviously the judge, or even if you're in a mediation, it keeps things tamped down and you're not firing things up. Don't throw fuel on the fire. It feeds nothing but your ego. Our ego. Sorry. I, I'm not immune. I do this all the time. I have regular opportunities that, come at me. And now I've gotten so much better. It happens so much faster. It feels so much better. Um, but it still happens. There are times where I go, oh, I took the bait. I got hooked. Sometimes I can stop before something escapes my mouth. Not always. We're human. But I'll tell you what, I'm successful a lot more of the time. And I'll just encourage the practice. Iterations. It's not 10,000 hours to get mastery. It's 10,000 iterations. And I don't know how far I am on that arc, but I'm a lot farther than I was before, and I can feel it. You also want to be careful, calling courts corrupt, rigged, stacked. First of all, do you really want, do you really think insulting the judge or the court is going to advance your cause in any way? One, I don't think family law courts, I'm sure there's one instance, but it's in the movies that family law courts are corrupt. They're not. There's no incentive. There's no gain to be made, pocketed. There's not cash being transacted and that. So, but I agree that oftentimes they are inept, inaccessible, confusing, frustrating, intimidating. Absolutely. Absolutely. But making an enemy of the court is not going to elevate your function within it because that's the only thing you can do. Prepare more, learn more, observe more, do this inside work more. That's what you can do. Because we can't just, go in and rearrange the complete infrastructure of the court out of hand. Over time, yeah. I'm not saying it doesn't need, upgrading itself, but it's just not helping you. It's not helping your mindset and it's not helping your thought process when that's what we're feeding in. Conclusions, all those conclusions, just across the board, there will be times I can't go into all the conclusory statements we might ever make, but always examine everything by what's brought us to making X statement. And then you feed up the equation. I think I'll add a couple that dealing with attorneys, even the court, even opposing, whether it's your attorney or opposing counsel, couple of things to avoid. Subject lines or even in bodies of emails and stuff that are all caps or that say urgent or 911 or that have like 8 exclamation points. And I've gotten all of these. And after a while, it's like, yeah, I'll get to that. Cause I know it's kind of the cry wolf thing. I know after, at some point, whether this is a person who, when they raise something important, it really is, or whether I'm probably in for a very long emotional narrative of something that may have happened that may or may not need action, very costly to the client, very costly to my other clients for my time that I spend on them. Don't do those things to your attorney or anyone else. Be succinct and concise with your language. Also, when you're with attorneys or a judge or opposing, or if you're shopping attorneys, oh my gosh. I always know when people call and go, this is a straightforward case. Slam dunk, open, shut, cut and dry. I immediately know that it's not. I just know it's not. There's really no such thing. Every single case has its own set of facts, its own personality, its own horizon. No two families are alike. But anytime I hear those words, so don't use those words because they're not really possible. And you have to respect the existence of contrasting views. That you look more credible when you accept, you may not agree with them, obviously, they're contrasting, but accept the existence of them, that your angle is not the only angle. And you want to be focused and organized, composed, succinct, comprehensive, informed, respectful, self-regulated, all that stuff. That's what you do instead of trying to straightforward slam. Comes off as posturing and uninformed. And I know everybody's done way more work than to raise something that makes them seem uninformed. I find that my clients are largely informed and hungry for more. I figure if they're here or you're here, you came to the trough because you're thirsty, and I brought the water, but it's up to you to drink. I think on the words wise, I'll let you go. I think be careful with, and this is more of kind of a procedural, functional, whatever, less a sort of circuitry and chemistry thing, but make sure you're not using too casual of language or verbiage that might apply in another state and not in yours. Similar to, I was talking about, the visitation, parenting time thing. Some people call alimony and spousal support. I mean, in one state versus the other, know your stops. I'm going to stand hard on the visitation parenting time, though. I think that's a biggie since parenting time belongs to the kiddos. So there's one super extra cool parts of the neurology upstairs. It's called the reticular activating system, the RAS. And what it does is it's like this little scanner, this radar. And that what we put at its attention, it seeks more of. The instance that's always used, like in textbooks and things like that, is that, we go by a white car and then we're driving down the road in our cool new ride. Not that I would buy white, but my parents did. Anyway, white car, blue car. It happened the same thing when I bought my car. It's navy blue. So I'm driving down the road thinking I got this, like, oh, I love this color. And then it's everywhere. It's everywhere. My car's everywhere. It's because in similar fashion, another adage is where energy goes, got that backwards, where focus goes, energy flows. So if you focus on something, if you're focusing on all these no words by using them, that's a focus, an act, then that's where your energy's going. So for the benefit of your health and well-being, for the benefit of your health span and lifespan, for the benefit of all those things of your kiddos, for the benefit of your potential outcomes in the case. Aim for your A game. Do the inside work. Remain open to it. Stay the course. Because you've got this, and we can all get better at it. And let it, practice it out in your daily life. That reframing of words. Feel how words land differently. You can play a little game with yourself. Think about when people say something that bounces off you, like, "Pfft," and you want to, snap back. Think about their word and then think in your mind, like, what would have landed somewhat better? Even if the content, you're not psyched about the content, but the packaging, what packaging would you have had less of that visceral inner reaction to? We weren't taught, we weren't told, and we weren't given permission that we could stop and that we didn't have to be a puppet to our thoughts and emotions and that we didn't have to respond in kind. And we're really bad. We basically, when we respond in kind, it often ratchets up. It's like, the fly with the shotgun or bringing a gun to a knife fight. Like we're not quite on mark. Never, it's never on par, right? It's always a ratcheting up thing. So don't ratchet. You don't have to play. You do not. So next week, we are going to communicate powerfully, putting these things to work with actual examples that you'll be able to use like a template. That's what my clients do. We bounce things back and forth. We tweak their language into something before it gets sent out, and then they use those as templates. And then next time I probably have to tweak a little less. And a lot of people just get it. It clicks, and then it just seems obvious. And they just feel better because they're acting in ways they can be proud of. I mean, the model that you are being in and through all of this is you're modeling for your children how to deal in relationships. Do you want them to feel like you do when you use some of these no-no words? I doubt it. And you can model who your child will be if they decide to partner and who your child will seek in a partner. You can model it. You're modeling that right now. So let's level it up. What got you here won't get you there. So practice. And I will see you next week for some powerful communication. And thank you for being here again. This is K-Mans in your corner, mastering your A game. I am Kimberly Mansfield, Kimberly K. Mansfield, and I will see you soon.